employer. The National Labor Relations Board claims Seattle-based Boeing is out to bust unions by building a new factory in South Carolina, which is, after all, a right-to-work state. Business leaders say the case is raising all kinds of questions. Let's talk about it with Tennessee Senator Lamar Alexander. He's chairman of the Senate Republican Conference and co-sponsoring a bill that would protect growing employers like Boeing who want to expand into right-to-work states. Give us your sense of what is at stake here. The labor unions don't like the fact that Boeing wants to build its new 787 Dreamliner in South Carolina, right?
Right. Not only wants to build it, they spent $1 billion building a plant and hired 1,000 people and ready to open it next month. The issue is the United States going to export airplanes, or are we going to export jobs? And it's not just Boeing, it's not just South Carolina, it's whether Ford, General Motors, Nissan, Volkswagen are going to be able to make in the United States what they sell in the United States. It's that simple.
The president's chief of staff, Bill Daley, was on the Boeing board when the board voted to move to South Carolina.
Well, not only that, the chairman of the President's Export Council is the chairman of Boeing, which is the nation's largest exporter. And you would assume the president wants, as I said, to export airplanes, not export jobs. In addition to that, the president's nominee for Commerce Secretary, the top business cabinet position, is on the Boeing board. So you would assume he wouldn't put a couple of people like that who were running Boeing in his administration if he thought they were breaking the labor laws at Boeing.
There's an awful lot of arm twisting going on here. I know your fellow Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has threatened to block one of the president's picks for Commerce Secretary if this thing doesn't happen, if the president doesn't back Boeing on its move to South Carolina. Is that appropriate, or is it politics as usual? How would you describe it?
I think it's very appropriate. I mean, this is the biggest labor issue in the country. For the last 2 years, it was whether the Democrats were going to repeal the secret ballot union election. This year, it's whether they're going to undermine the right-to-work law. And the bottom line for most working Americans is this will make it harder, not just for people to expand manufacturing jobs in the right-to-work state. I mean, why would some big manufacturer go to Michigan, for example, if it knew it could never expand into South Carolina or Tennessee or Georgia? The obvious alternative for those companies is to not invest in new jobs or to go overseas.
So the argument here is that Boeing wants to establish 1,000 jobs in America, just not in the state where they've done business all these years.
That's exactly right. And in fact, Boeing can make its own arguments, but Boeing is adding 2,000 jobs in Washington State, where it now is. It wants to build the first new production plant for large American airplanes in 40 years in the United States. There are a whole variety of reasons to build plants in South Carolina or in other states. And the de facto law of the country will be, if Boeing loses this case, that if you're thinking about expanding and you're in a state without a right-to-work law, which is 38 of our states, well then, you'd better think twice before going to a right-to-work state, which means less manufacturing jobs in all of the United States and more manufacturing jobs overseas.
Well, that hearing is supposed to be getting underway just about now. We're going to keep an eye on it. We'll keep our viewers updated as to what happens. Tennessee Senator Lamar Alexander, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, at Fox News Business Alert, we talk so much about the housing crisis, and here's a new side, right? We talk about how it affects owners and sellers and buyers, but what about renters? Growing demand for rentals is causing some steep rent